ปัญหาหนึ่งในแวดวงการศึกษาคือการลอกเลียนความคิดหรืองานเขียนของผู้อื่นมาเป็นของตัวเองซึ่งมีแนวโน้มเพิ่มมากยิ่งขึ้นในสังคมยุคอินเทอร์เน็ตปัญหานี้เกิดขึ้นไม่เว้นแม้แต่ในมหาวิทยาลัยอันดับต้นๆของโลกเมื่อเดือนพฤษภาคมที่ผ่านมามหาวิทยาลัยฮาร์วาร์ดมีแนวคิดให้นักศึกษาต้องปฏิญาณตนว่าจะไม่ทุจริตและลอกผลงานของผู้อื่น
Top universities like Harvard, they recently had a pledge for students, for freshmen to sign in order to have their integrity, honesty, not to plagiarize, not to cheat in the exams or in the coursework. Does this somehow reflect a fallacy in our higher education system?
I think there's obviously a lot of pressure on young people to perform well. There's a lot of pressure on universities to show they're rising up these sorts of rankings, so there are some challenges around ethics. I think in particular you see in China there's maybe a culture where they're so keen to publish research papers to be more visible in rankings or to be showing up in these government analysis. Maybe there's a pressure to cut corners or produce papers that aren't necessarily as accurate as they should be, and I think the same with students. But one of the things I would say actually, which is based on my personal experience, I went to visit our number one university, the California Institute of Technology, in December last year, and they have an honor code which is almost just one sentence long, and it's just about being true to yourself. And they give students so much freedom, you can't believe it. They give them the keys to laboratories with extremely expensive equipment, they get full access to it. They can take their tests home and do a test at home, and they're trusted to say, okay, 3 hours is up, and you write on the test, 3 hours here, and then you can keep going, but you'll only get assessed for the 3 hours. They have incredible trust, and actually I think that is one of the secrets, that the students who are there, they know that actually they're only cheating themselves if they cheat their exam. The exam result is meaningless unless you've genuinely absorbed the knowledge and you genuinely have been on that journey. The certificate is less important than the actual learning.
What should be the role of governments? The best way to balance, to not to meddle too much, but to keep their hands off, or what should governments do?
Yeah, I mean, I said I visited Caltech. There's quite a nice tradition emerging where, and this is very hard for any government because they're accountable for the money, but it's almost give them as much money as you can and then leave them well alone, and stand back and leave them alone. And in a way, increasingly now that just isn't acceptable because taxpayers want to know how their money's being spent. They want to see value for money. But actually there is a concern around that balance, because increasingly there's a focus on making universities prove what they've achieved, and that means maybe the universities become a bit more short-termist. They become more focused on saying, oh well, we invented this widget or we created this innovation, and maybe that's giving them a narrow focus, whereas actually the other university said, oh well, for 20 years nothing happened in this department, and then suddenly bang, they made a discovery that changed the world. So there's a really delicate balance, I think, between being accountable for the money and having the freedom to really allow great people. And that's the thing, you need to have great people that you trust, truly talented, innovative, exciting scholars, and give them the funding and the freedom they need to pursue their interests, and then leave them alone as much as you can.
Higher education today is very expensive. Is it overpriced?
Well, certainly in America there's a sense that there's a bubble, that there's a sort of subprime debt here, like a housing bubble. The tuition fees have gone up dramatically, and people want and expect that will be paid back through higher salaries and success in careers. And there's a real strong sense in America now that there's a real problem, that students are graduating with thousands and thousands or tens of thousands of dollars of debt, and they don't pay it back, and they can't find the work to pay it back. So there are some issues there, but I still believe that education is a fantastic investment. If you look at, you talk to people like the OECD, there's a lot of data that says that the world still needs higher skilled graduates. The jobs are there, you just perhaps need to be very flexible and patient. I'd like to see universities making sure they maintain scholarships, maintain financial support for people from less wealthy backgrounds, because education should be available to everyone who has the ability to succeed, not those who have the ability to pay the fees.
แม้ว่าในการจัดอันดับมหาวิทยาลัยคราวนี้จะมีมหาวิทยาลัยของไทยติดอันดับด้วยไม่มากนักนะคะแต่ก็หวังค่ะว่าในการจัดอันดับคราวหน้ามหาวิทยาลัยต่างๆของไทยจะพัฒนาศักยภาพของตัวเองผลิตบัณฑิตที่มีคุณภาพออกมาและก้าวสู่ระดับสากลมากยิ่งขึ้นค่ะพบกันใหม่สัปดาห์หน้าวันนี้สวัสดีค่ะ